Hey guys, we're in April now. We're really getting into the year or starting the year depending on where you sit with everything. I wanted to make a really sort of a raw video here with this one because I've got a download today which has been interesting, but it is the culmination of a lot of downloads that I've had over the last 4 weeks. And I wanted to share it with you in case this is you as well, because I believe some of the messages we get are meant to be shared. Some are personal, some will mean certain things to us, but they'll also mean a multitude of different things to a multitude of different people. And if we can just share, like I always say, my motto here at Smarting Coaching is if I can just help one person today. So you might be that person or you might know that person. So we can get away with doing the barest minimum of anything for a while. You know, I've had a lot of illness in the last 3 years. And I've had to run the barest minimum of things in the house. I've had to run the barest minimum of doing things out in the world. I've had to have days where I just worked, ate and rested. Or sometimes I couldn't even go to work, or sometimes I couldn't even get out of bed. And so I just had to give in to that. And you can do that for so long. But then until all of a sudden you can't because, well, you need to go to work because you need to earn money for whatever you're doing. You need to get out of bed because otherwise you could just spend your whole life in there, right? Same with housework. You can do the barest minimum for a while, for whatever reasons. You're busy, stuff's going on, but eventually you're going to need to do that deep clean because things are going to get out of hand. You know, the skirting boards are really dirty, the washing, there's things that you need to do. The bathroom needs to be deep cleaned, the oven, the fridge. Do you know what I mean? So, today I got that download first, and then I got one about healing, because we can do so much healing when we get into the thick of things. And I've been in it since my spiritual awakening, and I've gone down 3 deep dives since my spiritual awakening of things, and you can get stuck there. And so the barest minimum part that I'm talking about today is living. We can do the barest minimum living when we are healing something, when we are really going into a deep dive, when we are really looking in, when we are doing stuff. I've pulled back from friends, family, social media, outings, anything that took my energy, because a lot of my energy was inward. It was dealing with some pretty heavy stuff, and I've found some pretty interesting things out about myself and about my life and about all sorts of things. And I've had to face a lot of demons. And for years I ran, and that was exhausting, but I decided to sit with those, right? And so I've done a lot of that over the since 2017. And I've spoken to a lot of people whose awakening started then too. I follow a lot of people whose awakening started then too. And so I know that it's like bobbing for apples, but it can get addictive and it can take over your life. And you can constantly look for things then that need to be fixed because you want to get this done, right? But the thing is, there's always something else to deep dive into. There's always something else to fix. And I say fix loosely. I don't think we need to be fixed. I just think we need to discover all parts of ourselves and be able to accept them, and then the rest will follow. So what happened with me is I've been out of balance. I've been doing 70%, 80% healing, 20% living. And my guides are like, enough, Suze, like enough. This is where the rubber meets the road now. You need to flip that switch to do 20% healing, which they've told me is actually about my physical body and my physical health, not my emotional, mental, not about that body. It's about the physical body, and 80% living. They've told me that I need to now go out into the world and live from the things that I've learned, to live from the things, to live as the person that's not carrying around all that stuff, to live as the person who's not running away anymore, to live as the person who has learnt stuff about herself. And I've got to tell you, it's really, really difficult to do that when you haven't done that for most of your life. I've run from myself for so many years that when I finally got the smack down and sat down with some big truths about myself, that was pretty full on and scary. And I got to the point where I couldn't resist it anymore. It was there right in front of me. I couldn't turn or move without things being like, you need to deal with this now, and you need to deal with this now. So I've done a lot of that. But what it's brought up for me has been incredible, and it's changed so many things in my life. But now stepping out into the 80% living thing, it's also bringing stuff out in me that I didn't realise. I have not put myself first a lot in my life. Not a lot, right? And I struggle to do that. I struggle to spend money on myself. I justify stuff all the time. And I've had some things in the last 12 months where I've spent money, done things, didn't, and then the justification started to come and I'm like, I'm not justifying this. I don't know, does anyone else out there struggle with that? I'm still finding the way forward, but I'm not going to find the way forward until I actually start walking forward as that person, putting into practice the things that I've learnt and then tweaking them for what works for me and what works for me now, because what worked for me 20 years ago doesn't work now because I'm not that same person. I know there are going to be people out there who resonate with this, and I know there are going to be people out there that they aren't ready for this yet, and I totally get that. But it may just plant a seed for you to loosen the reins on yourself and be a little bit kinder to yourself, whilst also grabbing yourself by the ear and saying, dude, you know, you can only fill yourself up with so much knowledge before you're full and can't take in anymore. And then you've got to go through and live that, and live as that person with that knowledge. Get the knowledge out of you into practice. Find the nuances and the things that work for you, the things that don't, the things you need to tweak or whatever. You empty out of the knowledge, and then you can go forward and gain more knowledge to, again, go forward. Does that make sense? We need to live because that's what we've come here to do. And so many people in the spiritual communities and the things like that, and I've got stuck in this too, which is why I'm speaking on it, can get so excited about being in those higher chakras and those higher levels and out in the, I don't know, people label it with, you know, something D or I don't know. We can live so far out there that we try and we forget about our human body and our humanness, and we try and transcend the humanness because, let's face it, sometimes it feels better not being in your body and being out there. But that's not what we came to Earth to do. We don't get a human body and that's just like, oh, ho-hum, it's just there, let's just get out of that. No, we're here for our human body. So we need to take care of our human body. We need to take care of our human mind. We need to take care of our human surroundings by not just doing the bare minimum all the time. We can get away with doing the bare minimum for short periods of time, short bursts of time for reasons like I've spoken about. But we cannot don't live just doing the bare minimum in your 3D Earth body environment. We need to be able to use what we've learnt when we're up and out there in the ethers, when we're getting information from the collective consciousness or the collective grid or the universe or whatever you want to call it. I'm not into names. I don't know where it comes from. I just know that it comes from somewhere, because so many things that I get in and write about and receive are nothing like I would ever think about before, things that I've never even heard of before, that sometimes I get downloads and I have to go and look stuff up because I don't even know what the word is or the archangel is or the song that I hear is, or we need to take all of that information then and bring it down. I hear those things, I see those things, I write them down, and I know they come from somewhere else because I often hear or see or read from other people in the same space as me, and they're getting the exact same thing at the exact same time. When that happens, I know that it's meant to be shared. And you may say, oh, well, they're sharing it. Why are you sharing it? We all reach different people. We all say things differently. We all individualise what we get in. And it will mean something different to me than it will be to them, that it will be to the other person, that it will be to you even when you receive the information. It's a bit like going to an art gallery and people stand there and look at a piece of art and everyone walks away with a different experience because we all have a different lens, we all have a different mind, we all have different ways. And what I believe is it's when we get together and discuss what we saw, you know, passages in the Bible, art, songs, movies, experiences that we've experienced with somebody else, when we can get together and expand our own mindset by listening to how somebody else saw something, how somebody else perceived something, how somebody else, the emotions, what it brought to life in them, what it inspired in them. When we can get together and share that knowledge and expand from that place, we can then expand our life from that place and live as that expanded person out in the world. And that's got to be better for everyone, right? But don't bypass, you're human. Don't bypass your individuality. Please don't bypass all those things, those quirks, those special things that make you different. You wouldn't have them if it wasn't important. We're all here for a reason. We may not know the reason. We may never know the reason. I believe we'll know the reason when we exit, but that's a whole other video. But that's just what I believe. I don't think we're just here to consume and be just totally in our earth body. But I don't believe we're here to bypass the earth body and be up in our other bodies all the time. We're here to combine them. We're here to balance it. But we're also not here to live in balance. We're here to come back to balance. If you live a balanced life 100% of the time, you're not living. You're just existing in a bubble that you've created in your own mind that's safe. And what's the saying? A ship is safe in the harbour, but that's not what a ship is built for. What are we doing? Are we living or are we existing? So with the downloads that are coming in and that final piece of the download, which is what I often get, downloads that are okay on their own, but I'll get something at the end, usually at the end of a month or just on the beginning of a month, which is this has happened. And it's like brackets around those downloads. And then when I can put them all together, it's almost reverse engineering in a way. When I can put them all together and see the different things that I got as they were individual downloads, but then as a combined whole, the downloads that I received as a combined whole make so much difference. But also in that month, I've lived with the information I've got from each individual download, and I've put them into practice in different ways in my life. And then when I get the final download that puts it all together, it brings out a whole new expansion of all those things that have come down. Downloads, they're saying, I can hear you saying, downloads. What's the download? It's information that drops in from somewhere. It often happens to me when I'm in the shower or when I have my hands in the kitchen sink. Maybe when I'm vacuuming. A lot of the time it was happening to start off with when I was driving. Why was that happening? Because that was the only downtime I was giving myself for my brain to be able to be tapped into by the higher consciousness, the universe, God, source, my guides, whatever. So I call my guides, I call God. I've had God in my life all my life. But I did have some time in a religious environment where people told me, no, that wasn't God. And that's not how God speaks, and that's not what God does. And it made me question everything. And I realised that God is a word that we talk about, we say, we talk about in conversation, but everyone has a different lens on God. And so I've renamed God George. And I talk to George all the time, every day, every hour maybe. It's like an open message on Messenger where we chat backwards and forwards. And I've since learned that George isn't just one thing. It's a multitude of things. And I call him he because I call him George, because George is a man's name. Not that it necessarily is, it could be a woman's name. But I call him he for simplicity's sake, but he's not a he. It's so much more than that. Is it the combined knowledge of the grid of thought from everybody who's ever lived? Probably. Is it knowledge from your higher self? Possibly. Is it knowledge that is coming into being and is ready to be planted in you because of what you've done? Probably, I don't know. It could be all of the above. I don't know. And when people ask me how I do my things with intuition, how I read tarot, how I come up with the things I come up with, I don't know. And if you're someone that needs me to prove it to you, to work with me, or if you need me to prove it to you, to believe in what I do or whatever, I'm, thanks, enjoy your coffee, but I've got things to do. I'm not going to sit down and justify myself. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's just who I am. I've always been this. I've always been misunderstood for what I see, what I say, what I don't say, how I move in the world. And people have quite often wanted me to justify it. And for a lot of times in my life, I used to sit down and try and come up with an answer, a reason, or something, justify to people. And then I would talk myself out of all the beautiful gifts that I had because it didn't make logical sense. Nothing actually makes logical sense. We just try to make it logical. Again, part of the 3D earth living. And that makes us feel happy, makes us feel in control, makes us feel like we know what's going on. And that's how we live. but it's not true. We just make it look like that. So I wanted to share this in case this can help anybody. I don't know how many people are going to get to the end, probably no one, I don't know. But it's out there, and I've put it out there now, and it will cause a ripple where it needs to cause a ripple, and it will ripple out into the world, and it will add to that collective consciousness, that collective spoken words. We speak words, and it affects things. It affects people even if they don't hear them, if they don't see them. I don't know. I don't get how it works, but I just know that it does. I know that telepathy is real. I've had a lot of telepathy all my life, but I've especially had it since my awakening. That's a big thing now. That's a huge thing now. More and more people are going to start to realise it, because when you shut yourself down, when you have gifts and things in your childhood and you shut them down and you push them away, they can only stay down for so long, and they will come to you and knock on the door and knock on the door, and eventually they will just lift the door off its hinges and stand in front of your face and say, right, here we are. We need it now. So when your awakening comes, when your downloads start, when things start happening, just resist living only in that space. Allow yourself time to be in that space, but make sure you're bringing stuff down, grounding stuff down into the actual life that you're living. Be in your meat suit. Look after your body. Look after your mind. Look after others. Live from a place of love. That doesn't mean that you put up with stuff or don't do stuff wrong or anything like that. But if you can come from a space like that and walk forward from that and expand from that and share from that, we are all going to grow better and bigger, and we are going to encourage other people who feel like they're at a stop and a standstill where they can't go on. I hope this has been helpful for someone. Once again, I'm Suze from Smarting Coaching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have the most amazing day. Love you.